A's fans, hello. Welcome to the live stream. And let me just set the mood here for Coliseum baseball with some fans in attendance. Oh, no, that was not good. Oh, that's still not good. Come on, Brazil. Oh, wait a second. It was asking me to install something new. What a terrible start to this live stream. Ah, there we go. And how about this? Now we're talking. Kind of feels like you're at the yard right now. Little summer night, but yes, the topic of this video is something that I quite honestly did not expect to be making. Oakland 0-4 to start their 2021 season. What a rough weekend at the Coliseum. As far as I know, last check, there were 4 winless teams in Major League Baseball. That was as of yesterday. The A's are one of them. Was the crowd reacting to that? And the Oakland A's, as far as I know, were the only big league team to still not hold a lead in any game going into today. Yeah, they had it rough against Houston. And I think what was most frustrating about the weekend was obviously losing 4 in a row and just getting swept in a 4-game series, but also the fact that every game played out in near identical fashion. Houston would score first, A's might catch up a little bit, then Houston puts them away, and then even adds some on at the very end to make it even more of a lopsided final score. So I'm going to go through here the good, the bad, and the ugly of this 0-4 start. It's the first time they've been 0-4 since 1987, more than 30 years ago, and the time prior to that was 1979. Those are the only 2 times prior that they've started 0-4 in a season in Oakland history. So look, it just goes to show you 0-4 is historically bad. At the same point, we're only talking about 4 games here. And there is something about having to retune your brain from a 60-game season back to the full 162, right? It was such a mind warp last year that every game counted for, 2.7 games? And, there were hardly any breaks in the season. This is a traditional baseball schedule. So my hope is that by June, even into July, we will not even remember this past first series to open it up for the Oakland A's. I also want to point out, as we get ready for tonight and the next 2 days after that, it doesn't get any easier in facing the Dodgers and then flying out to Texas to go face Houston next weekend in a series, again, on the road. So let's start off with the good. Believe it or not, a couple good things I could extract from this past weekend and the A's games. The first one is the first hitter in Oakland's lineup, and that is Mark Canha. Kind of a question of how would this go, and I don't say that with any reservation. I'm just curious to see how it went. Last year, he was the cleanup hitter. He was the 5 hitter for Oakland. Brings power to the lineup, but also brings really good, patient at-bats, gets on base, sometimes gets hit by pitches, not good for his body, but good for the team, so long as, hits the elbow guard or hits in a nice meaty part of the body. And Mark Canha has done all of that. Yesterday had a double and a triple in the game. So you do have to say, of all the struggles of the weekend, Mark Canha could not be included. Offensively, he's been getting on base. And you know what? A couple just battling type at-bats. Those 7, 8, 9 pitch at-bats that he can generate, I'm telling you, that changes the dynamic of the game, whether it's their starter or their reliever to have to throw that many pitches to one batter. So I do have to say, it doesn't surprise me that Mark Canha is fitting in well so far in this leadoff position. In fact, it was one of my Big 5 predictions going into this season, but I'm glad to see in a small sample size, just 4 games in, that Mark Canha is definitely filling that role nicely as expected, getting on base. The next positive here, and I also have to say it's also going to be one of the uglies. So how are one of the goods also going to be one of the uglies? Chad Pender, really good start to this season, starting a couple games, not starting the others, having to fill in, but he has so far hit the A's only homer. He's also made hard and loud contact almost every at-bat that he's had. I know he struck out here and there, but also making some really nice defensive catches in right field, 3 that I can count. Unfortunately, the last catch he made, the first out of yesterday's game, is what took him out of the contest. So we'll discuss that in the ugly in just a second. So Chad Pinder, another player that I know is a is a fan favorite. He's definitely a personal favorite. I can easily say that. Love him personally. Love what he does on the field. Just a hustle guy, a grind guy, a leader by example for this team. But I do not know his status right now. I assume we'll find out as this evening goes on whether he'll be back in there tonight. I know it's the knee that got injured on that catch yesterday. And then the third thing that I can actually extract from this past weekend of being good for the A's, team defense. Now, hang with me here for a second. I realize, Chapman made an error in yesterday's game. I realize that Altuve tagged up on a pop fly to essentially second base on Elvis Andrus the other day. So I realize that there are still some things to correct. It has not been perfect. But you cannot say that the A's handed the Astros games this weekend because of their poor defense, right? And that is a thing of A's seasons past. When you knew that they were going to be a rough team and a rough season, it was like, man, you were just in this game if you didn't make those 2 defensive errors pretty much every single game. So the A's have actually been relatively clean in the field. Doesn't appear that way on the scoreboard. Again, I've never seen it slanted in a one direction. What's the A's run differential? Getting outscored 35-9. So that part has no doubt been rough. But team defense for me has to fall into the good category. All right. Those were kind of tough to pull out, to be honest with you, to isolate those and to try and really think about those. Now we'll get to the bads. And it is the fact that, both sides of the scoreboard have been burnt for the Oakland A's, because on one hand, if they were in these games and these were just boat races to the end, and let's say the A's got outscored 35-25, okay, fine. It almost was like the ALDS last year, right? A's were hitting homers, Houston was hitting homers, they just did a little bit more, and you're frustrated because at least you were in these games and took leads, maybe gave them back, but these 4 games to start this season has been nothing like that. And it's also crazy because Houston in 10 games head-to-head against the A's last year in the regular season, Houston scored 25 runs. So they just scored 10 more runs in 6 less games from 20 to 21. And so the A's not being competitive in these games, giving up a ton and not scoring a ton. If one or the other was a little bit closer, if that run differential were tighter, you would see some more maybe reason for excitement despite the result. It's hard to find maybe some motivation around the way that series went. I also want to key in on the Astros output here, because it's one thing to say you scored 35 runs over 4 games and 9 a couple times and an 8 one day. But for me, the biggest things are this. The Astros in every game scored in 4 different innings against Oakland. You have to cut that down. I mean, that's optimal for any team. If you tell me any given team scores 4 runs on any given night, I'm probably going to tell you that they won the game. It's hard to score in 4 different innings and lose, right? Because even if you're putting up 1s and 2s, I mean, that's somewhere between 4 and 8 runs, and that's usually going to do it for you. Not to mention if you have a 3 or a 4 spot in there, like they did. So limiting the amount of innings and having some clean innings thrown in there for the A's moving forward, that's going to be imperative. And then the other thing was, now they didn't score a 9th inning run yesterday, but in the first 3 games, Houston tallied a total of 10 9th inning runs. On one hand, not all those runs were difference makers. I mean, none of them took a lead back, so they were all insurance, but they were insurance to different amounts. On Friday night, they kind of added the important runs that sealed the deal. On Thursday and on Saturday, these were the runs that really made it into a one-sided and a lopsided final score. So if I'm the A's, the bad part of it is the bullpen just could not. It's one thing for a starter to give up a couple runs, but the bullpen of the last several years has been able to lock things down. I hate the expression stop the bleeding, but essentially that's what they've been able to do. And that was not the case for the A's at all. I mean, it was the later innings, the latest innings, where Houston really poured it on and made it ugly. Kai Tom pitching yesterday, that has to unfortunately fall in the category of bad. I know for some folks it was entertaining. You can't tell me how bad Bob Melvin felt to have to do that, and Ryan Christensen had to field to even ask Kai Tom to do that. I know it seemed like he enjoyed the experience. And by the way, how ridiculous is this that in baseball, Here we go. Let's get some crowd. Oh, that was Ocean. Nope, there's baseball crowd. How ridiculous is this that he comes in, faces the 1, 2, 3, 4 batters for Houston, and I thought he was going to have a 1, 2, 3 inning, but he only needs to face 4 batters to get in and out of that frame. No hard contact, couple pop-ups, ground out. Like, that's ridiculous. He's never pitched at the big league level. He doesn't even have a hit at the big league level, and he just pitched a 4-batter inning against one of the best teams offensively of the weekend. How does that work? Yeah, crowd, I get it. Do I have any more crowd sound effects there? Oh, yeah, there you go, right? How exactly does that work? All right, let me fade all these out here. Kai Tom pitching, exciting for some. If you really understand what's going on, yeah, it's not good. And then the last thing here, only 1 homer for Oakland all weekend long. That has to go in the bad category, and I say that because we know in the last several seasons, a large percentage of Oakland runs have come via the home run, and when you don't hit those and when you don't manufacture them any other way, scoring runs is going to be an issue. And 9 runs across 4 games, you're averaging, 2 point something? That's just not usually going to be enough to get you wins at this level. All right, so now, unfortunately, it gets deeper. We have to dive into the ugly, and I'm actually reserving this category for the entirety of injuries to the Oakland A's. Chad Pinder, we talked about the catch. Great catch, one of several on the weekend. It appears he hurt his knee, and I don't know how long or how much he's going to miss. I'm hoping to find out here in the next couple hours that he's back tonight, but I'm not wagering on that either. Ramon Laureano was at Friday night, dove into first base, got his hand caught in the bag. That's a wrist injury. Don't know the severity, but I hate to see it on a glove hand for Ramon Laureano. Also, a front hand, a lead hand with the bat. You think about, having to bring that bat through the zone, and that front wrist, if it's injured anywhere in here, that is the one that's controlling the bat more than the top hand is just guiding it. So concern there, concern for the hit by pitch that Sean Murphy had on opening night that he has still not played since then. Said in the game, hey, he's like, I'm fine. Stayed in, ran, all that stuff. But then obviously between Thursday and Friday, it was no good. Aramis Garcia, credit to him for filling in this weekend, playing a couple games in a row, but I know the A's really want Sean Murphy in there. So we'll see how that goes with his wrist. I don't know if it's a day-to-day thing truly, or if it's going to be a retroactive IL stint. And the same thing with Stephen Piscotty, who has avoided the injured list, but I know the A's were trying to keep it easy going on him to start this season. They haven't necessarily been able to do that because he's been needed in right field. He's been needed for certain situations. So they couldn't accomplish that. And all of that is not even to forget Mike Fiers, who's not going to make at least 1 turn, probably going to miss 2 turns in the rotation at least. Because of the hip injury, he was placed on the 10-day IL. And I didn't think Cole Irvin pitched bad the other day. But, you want Fiers. You want your full staff to get, the first turn healthy through the rotation here. And the other thing to call a flag on right now is Trevor Rosenthal. He's got the shoulder injury. I don't know his status. I don't know a throwing routine. I don't know where that's at. And, unfortunately, the A's bullpen has not been needed for save situations, but we've yet to even have the opportunity to see who the A's closer. I think it should be Jake Diekman, but we haven't even seen a save situation for the A's. So what are they going to do minus Trevor Rosenthal, and for how long is that going to last? Because we know how vital the departure of Liam Hendricks was. It seems like Rosenthal is the perfect fit, but what's the situation there? How long will the A's be without their closer? So I'm going to close out this video by saying, again, I hope we watch this, or I hope somebody stumbles upon this video in June or July and looks back and says, remember that? Well, first off, remember that hideous hair that Brazil had to start the season? That's what I hope you remember first. And second, I hope you look at that and say, yeah, that didn't mean anything to the rest of the Oakland A season. It's possible to start 0-4 and still finish with 97 wins. It's very possible. And a sweep midseason wouldn't mean much. It just means more right now, because this Oakland A's team has yet to establish in this regular season. So I'm going to close out the video. Really appreciate all of you watching. I'll see you on television the next 2 nights for Oakland A's pre- and post-game live from the Coliseum on NBC Sports California. All right, until then, everybody, be safe and enjoy baseball.